Yeah, they're good. They're not outstanding though. Who wouldn't want to try a recipe with a glowing review like that? Here's the deal. I set out to make some simple oatmeal cookies, but may have accidentally invented a whole new course for a feast like Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner. If you're familiar with Bob Ross, the painter from the PBS show, you know his famous phrase,
"We don't make mistakes, we have happy accidents."
Well, I think this is a case of that happening. Keep watching to find out more. Okay, here's the deal. I'm about to make some oatmeal cookies, but give them a definite autumn slant. I'm using pumpkin spice and apple infused raisins. So here's how I created the apple raisins. You take the raisins, 3/4 cup. My first happy accident, I didn't factor in the expansion of the raisins from the apple juice, so ended up with way more than needed. Okay, and because I'm going to need this measuring cup later, I'll put the raisins into a bowl, and then you're going to cover them in apple juice and let them soak for as long as you can. I let them soak for about 4 hours, but overnight would be ideal. So just like this. And if you've never done this before, it adds a very interesting flavor. So you can use any kind of juice you want. Because I'm going with a fall theme, I'm using apple, but mango juice would be good, or any other flavor of juice. Just add it to the raisins and they take on the flavor of the juice. Okay, so we're going to let those soak for as long as possible. It's always a good idea if your raisins are sticking together to separate them with a spoon or a fork, just to make sure you get enough of the juice on every raisin, or into every raisin. So I'm going to follow the recipe on the back of this box of McCann's Quick Irish Oatmeal. Why don't we start with what we need for ingredients. We need 1 1/4 cups of softened butter. Okay, when it came to the butter, they didn't specify salted or unsalted. So assuming this is an Irish recipe, I thought they would be using the world famous Irish butter. And I did some research on it and found out Irish butter is actually salted. So I used salted butter. Another happy accident. A 1/2 cup of firmly packed brown sugar, a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, 1 egg slightly beaten, hasn't been beaten yet, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour that I will sift. It doesn't say to do that, but I think it's always a good idea. 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt, and the recipe calls for 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, which is optional, but I put all those ingredients in here, but instead of cinnamon, I'm using pumpkin pie spice. Then I'll be using 3 cups of McCann's Quick Cooking Irish Oatmeal and a 1/4 cup of raisins. They've soaked up some of that apple juice. What I used was a natural, not from concentrate juice, but you could probably use any kind of apple juice, or you could actually use any kind of juice and give it the flavor of that. And then also it calls for a 1/2 cup of chopped walnuts, which I only had actually fresh walnuts in the shell, so I had to chop them myself. So I put them in a baggie and then hit them with a rolling pin. All right, so why don't we begin? The first instruction is to preheat the oven to 350, so I've done that. And now, so in a large bowl, we're going to put the butter. And oh yes, I had this sitting out for quite a while to soften it, and it is very soft. Okay, so we're putting in the butter, the sugars, the egg. This is how I'm going to pre-beat it. That is 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Okay, so now we're going to mix master this. Okay, so you want to mix it till it looks like this, so it's fairly evenly blended. And then the next step is combine flour, baking soda, salt. So here's our flour. Oh, the place is not on fire. That smells so good. Okay, the salt, the baking powder, and the pumpkin pie spice. Now it says mix well, and I'm going to give it a stir first. Okay, that's what it's looking like now. And what we do is stir in the oatmeal, raisins, and walnuts. So maybe we'll just do a bit at a time. Bit of raisins, bit of walnuts. Give it a stir. I'm going to do it on the counter. Okay, I'm gonna add a lot more pumpkin spice. I don't smell it in here at all. I'd say that was about 2 more teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice. But even another one wouldn't hurt. Unless you're allergic to it, then it would probably kill you. I'm going to get in there with my hands and mix. Okay, so now it says to make the cookies 1 rounded teaspoon in size. Doesn't seem very big to me. And this recipe is supposed to make 30, so we'll see about that. I say to put them on an ungreased cookie sheet too. Weird thing with me is I cannot stand oatmeal in any kind of cookie other than oatmeal raisin. Like, you can chase me with oatmeal chocolate chip, but oatmeal and raisin seems to go so well together. I think it's because it's one of those comfort foods from my childhood. On a cold winter morning, Mom would make oatmeal, raisin oatmeal for breakfast. But yeah, other than that, I cannot stand oatmeal. Okay, did I do something wrong? I seem to have like double the amount. Yes, you did. You added plumped up raisins, creating a lot of extra volume. But again,
Happy accidents.
Okay, well, let's try this. Okay, and then they go in the oven for 12 to 15 minutes. Okay, so as you can see, I've got a lot more than 30. I've got 30 in the oven and 30 here. Okay, and they're quite puffy in the oven, so I'm going to flatten these ones down a bit. I thought they would spread out, but they don't seem to be. Okay, I'm just going to check for doneness, like a cake. It's coming out clean, so. Okay, so it says to let them sit on the tray for a minute. I guess it's been a minute, so I'm going to move them onto a tray or onto a wire rack to cool. And because I don't have a proper cooling rack, I have to use this. So I just stick some ramekin things under it. Okay, let's give them a taste. They smell good, very pumpkin spicy. Okay, they seem a little salty. The walnuts definitely add to it. Yeah, they're good. As you can tell by my reaction, they didn't quite turn out as I was expecting. The recipe called for salt, but based on the saltiness of these, I'm thinking maybe they meant if you used unsalted butter. Don't get me wrong, they're far from salty. Just not as sweet as you'd expect a cookie to be. At first I thought I was going to have to throw away the entire batch, but then an interesting thing happened. The more I tasted them, the more I liked them. And the longer they sat in a Ziploc bag, the stronger the spices became. But that's where another happy accident comes in. I'd say these little autumn balls of goodness could fall into the category of dappetizer, a dessert for an appetizer. So after you've had your appetizers, you have this to cleanse the palate or rev up your taste buds with the spices in it. They're sort of like a cross between a scone and a cookie. So you might even call them sconies or skookies or simply
Happy accidents.
Okay, so that's it. That's the deal with pumpkin spice, raisin, apple infused oatmeal cookies. Thanks for watching. Bye.